The School of Veterinary Medicine is now into its 7th year, and it was very much a course that started with the intent of addressing the needs of Namibia. And because Namibia has, as we all know, a very important wildlife presence, both in terms of its economic and its ecological importance, it was a very wise decision on behalf of the university to incorporate into the School of Veterinary Medicine's standard undergraduate curriculum a 3-modular course on wildlife clinical studies. And the students are encouraged to think of wildlife in a similar vein to which cattle and other livestock are of an importance in this country. And so the course is really at a basic level to give them enough information and skills to deal with the wildlife issues from a veterinary perspective. And having gone through the basic ecology of animals, wild animals, we go through some of the management of wildlife, then we start looking at the chemical immobilization. And then in their final year, those that are really interested and those that are keen to go forward with a professional future in the area, to do this wildlife clinical studies, which is what we're doing now with the elective. And here they actually get their hands on the animals, they actually do a lot of the work themselves.
The students finally saw that not everything works according to textbook situations, so a lot of thinking on the feed, a lot of adapting of the plans, a lot of change in logistics, always new challenges coming up. Yeah, good for them to see that you have to think on your feet, you have to make plans in the field. So yeah, the theory and the practical side, try to bring the two together, not always that smooth, but that's the reality. For us, it's important to form the link between the ecology, the biology, and then the veterinarians. The veterinarians often come from a medical, scientific background, and our customers are often people coming from the ecology. And I think it's important to bring these two sides together. So any good opportunity to expose our students to ecology, biology, conservation is really important. Also, we don't really have the facilities at the university itself to do real wildlife work, so we need to take them out to places like this where ecology and conservation is practiced on the ground. So good for them to see learning opportunities, and on the other side we can provide a service for these projects. So it's a win-win situation for both sides, us, the university, and then the project as a whole, which we can provide with a veterinary service.
Well, we had a nice combination of the UNAM veterinary medicine students and my ecological students that are doing projects in movement ecology, capturing and radio collaring different species. So we managed to do 9 eland, 9 kudu. We replaced collars on springbok that we'd had here for a few years already, and then some giraffe, which we actually added to a previous capture event, which means that we have 28 animals across this reserve which are moving, and we can monitor those movements, plus we can monitor the behavior from the accelerometers in the collars. One of the strengths of this OYRCS project is about really student projects. So in Namibia, we know that it's expensive to study, and many students don't get that opportunity. So through the OYRCS project, we are able to pair up Namibian students with German students. It's a German Ministry of Education and Research funding that we have. So through this project, we're able to pair those students up, and they can each have a competent research project, a 2-year research project for a master's, 3 years for a PhD at least, with a local and an international supervisor who are experts in their respective fields supervising those students.
So the wildlife elective is split into 2. Half of it we do, myself and Dr. Aschenborn, and the other half Dr. Rodenwald does at Africa. That's the second time he's done that. The feedback was tremendous. It actually surpassed expectations. All of the students reported having had a very enjoyable time, but also they felt it incredibly useful, having learnt and seen a great deal, particularly with the predators. And one must remember, as a veterinarian, the involvement in predators is often at a human-wildlife conflict level. So the wildlife predators are very important to us from a conservation point of view, but obviously they come into a challenge with a number of the farmers. And so Dr. Rodenwald takes them beyond just the sort of chemical capture into the whole arena as to why it's important and how to deal with that human-wildlife conflict interaction.
This was now to try and sensitize them again. Animals that are either threatened, both of them are threatened to various degrees, but both have a vital role in the whole ecological chain of wildlife. The hyenas, brown hyenas that Sarah spoke at once, and then going back to the aardvark, again a factor of climate change, again sensitize those students. Aardvark combined with pangolin both, and the aardvark have got the same source of prey. How is that being affected by climate change? And last year we had a very, very severe drought. How does it work? And I came in doing last year doing a couple of postmortems, and how does that fit in their curriculum? And they are going to be exposed in wildlife, different species, different parts that they will see, and they have to then just take basic physiology, anatomy, pathology, apply it here to try and come down to a diagnosis.
Whenever we train students, we do our utmost to be able to find certain tasks which need to be done anyway. We don't like chemically restraining animals just for the sake of chemically restraining them. So in this particular instance, we were able to get together with Dr. Morgan Hauptfleisch from NUST and together with Julian Fennessy. And the springbok work, the springbok collaring, is part of a program known as OYRCS, which is looking at landscape uses, wildlife uses and different species and how they move, how they use the landscape. So they needed these animals collared. We are very keen to assist with that and at the same time utilize it as an opportunity for students to be trained. So we were able to, when you were with us, we actually only managed to get one collar on one springbok. Not the easiest of creatures. You know, I did miss a few times, and that's to be expected. But we were able to get one darted, and we'll hope to do some more later on today. But it's good for the students to see that, to go through the drugs that we use, to look at some of the challenges of getting close enough to these animals, and then to get a dart in them and get them asleep so we can then put the collar on and go through the whole process of monitoring the animal while it's asleep, making sure the collar is fitted correctly and that the recovery is such that the animal wakes up and no harm is done. Today we did 2 giraffe. The animals are being collared for the same reason. It's part of the same program, the OYRCS program. It's also being used for Julian Fennessy's work, and he's looking at the movement of giraffe throughout the entire African continent. He's got, I think, in excess of 100 animals that are currently have got these transmitters on, and he's watching their movement to see how they're using it, how they're using the landscape with a view to maximizing management decisions. Giraffe are also fun and games to immobilize, to catch, and in this case we did them from the ground. We had managed to get the students out. Julian gave them a great sort of little practice on how to rope the animals down. What we do with the giraffe is, because when it comes down, it's a big old creature, and if it comes down and it takes too long and it can run through the bush, it can injure itself. So the aim is to get it down as fast as possible, which means that we use high doses of drugs which are members of the opioid family, and we get it down as quickly as possible, but it does then mean we need to reverse the effect of the drugs before they cause any damage. So the students were able to get to the giraffe, catch it, get it down. We gave the reversal drug, then they had to sort of hold it down just for a few minutes while we put the implant on the ossicone and then wake it up. Nobody was hurt. The giraffe is fine, and everyone seems to be happy. And as long as that's the outcome of a giraffe capture, I'm always happy.
Conservation is about partnerships, and we're really excited to continue working with NUST and UNAM. And it's awesome seeing young African students grow, blossom, playing a role in their capacity building. Giraffe is one of the hardest animals to get out there and capture, and it's great. These guys, you just see in the first couple of captures alone, really feel confident. It's about bringing that team together. So the results from this, and in support of the OYRCS program, we as GCF is just another partner. Dr. Morgan Hauptfleisch and his team, they're the ones who are the clever boffins behind all of this, and we provide a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of understanding about giraffe, and we're happy to be engaged. And importantly, it's awesome for Namibia. Namibia is really a hot spot for conservation, and for giraffe particularly. We've cut our teeth here in this country and taken all of that knowledge across the continent.
The biopsy work that is being done on the giraffe is being driven by Dr. Julian Fennessy, and really he's trying to gather as many samples as he can to work out the sort of speciation of the giraffe, to see exactly what species are where, or rather what subspecies are where. It's produced some very interesting results, and I think as a result of that he's reclassified some of the subspecies of giraffe. From the student point of view, it's good that they are aware of some of the conservation issues, but they're also using that experience as a tool to be able to chemically immobilize a giraffe, which is a challenging thing to do. And the first step, we felt it very good that they could actually point a remote projector at a giraffe and actually pull the trigger and get a biopsy dart, which obviously didn't cause any damage. So it was a good learning curve, both from a sort of veterinary perspective, but also from a conservation perspective. Conservation is something which is becoming ever more so, and should be, a sort of global responsibility. So in the African context, we sort of are responsible, if we are, for the custodianship of these animals. They live in Namibia, they live in Africa. But one's got to remember that it is often the people who come and visit the country who, through their visitation, provide tremendous wealth to the country. They pay lots of money to come and see the animals, and this is important. And so it's important that we also share the results of the research that is done with people in other countries. The OYRCS program very much strongly linked to Germany and the University of Potsdam. The work that Julian Fennessy is doing is throughout the African continent, but he also works closely with international collaborators. So we've got this concept of collaboration within research, but also the fact that we should be sharing, at least at a level which is comprehensible to people, the results of the research, because it's only then that they feel and have an added reason to come and visit the animals and see what's going on, and as I say, pay very good money, which is hard-earned and should be shared with other parts of the world. And it is that reason, amongst others, why the School of Veterinary Medicine has taken on these students who are interested in wildlife. I do believe that what we're trying to show them and encourage them to do means that at least some of them will continue the work in a veterinary responsibility, but at the same time work closely with the many other people who are responsible for the conservation of wildlife, be they biologists or wildlife managers or farmers or whatever. I have absolute confidence that these youngsters will continue the conservation work and do the best for the country. What we're planning is that there will be, these are now undergraduates, they're qualifying, and we're hoping that we can create 2 or 3 internships in the university so they can then come back to us for a year, we can take them a little bit further. And we're not going to have hundreds, but I'm sure that a few of them are going to get to the point where they will be more than keen and able to continue the work and in fact take it forward. I mean, it's an ever learning curve, and just talking to them now, they really switched on, they're on the ball, and yep, the future is in good hands.
Ecology, remember, is about interactions. Interactions between the soil, the air, the plants, the animals. You can doctor as many animals as you like. If they are dying of hunger, you're not going to make a difference. So it's important that we maintain these healthy ecosystems, and the wildlife are a result. The wildlife are not actually what we're conserving. We're conserving the system. The services that that ecosystem is providing is growing the wildlife, which means we can have all these products for people on it. I'm the principal of what's called the Biodiversity Research Centre at NUST, and our main goal is to use postgraduate research, master's and PhD research, to answer conservation questions. MET, veterinarians, conservancies, give us your research questions. What do you need to know? And we will link students to that, and that usually comes with funding, which is nice because to study is expensive. And then we answer some of these questions. So one of the questions here is the whole movement of wildlife, but it fits into a broader role because we've got decisions and management of Etosha Heights. We've got different management type national park. We've got some game farms with wildlife around here, which are making decisions based on their small unit of land. We've got the concession, and we've got conservancies. So our main hypothesis is that the different management types is resulting in a different impact on the ecosystem, the productivity of the ecosystem, and also the general biodiversity. But what about total biodiversity? Plants, insects, birds. Does that management also lead to an increase in general biodiversity? And that's one of the questions that we're answering in this program. So we have botanists working with us. We've got ornithologists working with us. We've got entomologists. And the wildlife people like myself and my students, we do the easier stuff. And we are measuring it in all these different landscapes.
The School of Veterinary Medicine is now into its 7th year, and it was very much a course that started with the intent of addressing the needs of Namibia. And because Namibia has, as we all know, a very important wildlife presence, both in terms of its economic and its ecological importance, it was a very wise decision on behalf of the university to incorporate into the School of Veterinary Medicine's standard undergraduate curriculum a 3-modular course on wildlife clinical studies. And the students are encouraged to think of wildlife in a similar vein to which cattle and other livestock are of an importance in this country. And so the course is really at a basic level to give them enough information and skills to deal with the wildlife issues from a veterinary perspective. And having gone through the basic ecology of animals, wild animals, we go through some of the management of wildlife, then we start looking at the chemical immobilization. And then in their final year, those that are really interested and those that are keen to go forward with a professional future in the area to do this wildlife clinical studies, which is what we're doing now with the elective. And here they actually get their hands on the animals, they actually do a lot of the work themselves. And whenever we train students, we do our utmost to be able to find certain tasks which need to be done anyway. We don't like chemically restraining animals just for the sake of chemically restraining them. So in this particular instance, we were able to get together with Dr. Morgan Hauptfleisch from NUST and together with Julian Fennessy. And the springbok work, the springbok collaring, is part of a program known as OYRCS, which is looking at landscape uses, wildlife uses and different species and how they move, how they use the landscape. So they needed these animals collared. We are very keen to assist with that and at the same time utilize it as an opportunity for students to be trained. Okay, so what we're doing, we've got a couple of springbok to try and catch with chemical immobilization. So we're just loading up the darts now to go and catch those. We're using a combination of drugs, and we're going to use a mixture of 3 different drugs: ketamine, azaparone and thiofentanil. And we're just loading those into the small little darts to be able to do that. It's in.
Yeah.
Okay, who's got the respiration? Someone give me the respiration. Okay.
50, just press on it again till it goes under 10, 4%, that's good. Okay, next. 6.
Yeah, looks about right. That's fine. Looks good. Who's doing the pulse oximeter? Where's the pulse oximeter? Do it, man.
Quite
Let's say
just check what happens over time.
But any, okay, 6, yeah, okay, only decimal now. 7, 6.
Respiration, keep an eye on it.
So we're just collecting all the metadata, which we've made a little app for the phone that prompts you what to measure and what to take. So you do it all from the phone.
Respiration is 16. Temperature?
So someone might want to help with the measuring. Is there someone that can help with that?
Put that in
In inches, right? No, centimeters. Hang on. That's right horn length. What condition would the vets?
Is that the
Body condition?
Yeah.
So
3, 4?
3, 3.5.
Okay, it's 3 or 4.
yeah.
Left horn length centimeters.
26.5.
Right is 27. Wait. 26.5.
Just feel here,
Turn off of the apple.
just not on the dart one. What do you feel?
Wat ik kant left.
Yeah, like air bubbles.
8 centimeter. Do I say something about the emphysema?
Just turn it back on the stomach. That should go on the record sheet.
Yep,
turn
just
it
on the
back on
right hand
the
side you've got a bit of emphysema. Let's just put it back on the stomach. Okay, we're done. Morgan, are you done?
I'm done.
Okay, yeah, Provis, here's a syringe, off you go.
I'm done.
Thank you very much.
What do you need me to do?
Just sit there. We're going to you can take those ear pluggies out. Let's just remove all the equipment. Hang on, so what we're going to do is we're going to inject it, then we're going to move all behind the animal, please. You can just keep those eye covers on until we're finished.
Jugular. Or ear, or back leg. In springbok, back leg looks quite good.
Oh yeah, you battle with the ear. I think that needle's a little bit big for the ear. You can try on the jugular.
Yeah, if you just pull out the back leg, it's a nice vein. Just turn it over. Oops. Alright. There we go. There's a nice vein for it.
Okay, wait, before you do that, okay, just take the thermometer out, please. Alright, okay. You're going to inject in the back leg.
Can I?
You can go, yep.
1754?
Okay. Antidote is going in. Head cover off, please. Okay, just. Morgan, vanished. Morgan, happy with the collar?
Sorry?
Happy with the collar?
Very happy.
Yeah, looks good.
All right, Doctor. Thanks for the afternoon. I mean, this afternoon we managed to dot at least one springbok, but I think it's just run us through exactly what we're doing today.
So the aim of the exercise was to collar a springbok, and we didn't exactly get the first few. It was fairly challenging, partly because it was quite windy, as you noticed, certainly to begin with. Until about an hour ago it was quite windy, which always makes it more interesting. The animals are somewhat more nervous, and obviously the darts don't fly quite straight, but eventually we were lucky and we managed to get one. Yeah, it went down pretty well. It was quite wide awake, got the collar on, and it looks good. It's a sort of nice mature female, about 5 years of age, so it should be fine. We were working in between 45 and 60 meters, which is quite a long way for a darting, but one's better than none.
Yeah, so tomorrow on we'll be looking at more springboks, or?
No, I think tomorrow the helicopter's going to be here, so
Okay.
tomorrow we'll switch certainly to begin with to kudu and eland.
Thank you very much for viewing today, and let's stay tuned for this program. We'll be dating other animals and more to see.